you guys think that the offensive line room will gain another addition via the transfer portal after spring football or some other position?
I think that there is a heavy possibility that they will add an offensive lineman. I cannot speak to who that person could possibly be. I think what we'll find out is after spring football, or perhaps a coaching change somewhere or something that comes up, there will be a viable offensive tackle prospect out there who could come in and shake things up. I think the hope, above all hope, is that either one of the guys on the Ohio State roster currently, because my back is killing me, shows that they have what it takes to be an every down guy, whether that's Simmons, Fryer, Toshbola, Montgomery, whoever, that they're gonna that they've made a quantum leap in the 3 months since the Cotton Bowl, and they're ready to go for 2024. We'll see if any of those type players emerges, but to me, short of that, they've got to go find somebody, because I don't think they can win at all if they're having total breakdowns on the offensive line again.
Yeah, I think that the hope is that somebody, be it Fryer at tackle or Montgomery or Mahalski or Shabola or somebody like that, has a big spring and shows the necessity of doing this is not there, is not necessarily needed for Ohio State. I still think, though, that you look at this point that if you have to go into spring and you're hoping somebody really shows that they're that championship caliber lineman, that means that you probably don't have a third lineman if you don't have a second lineman. So, I mean, that could even still change the geometry of whether or not they go out and they get a 1-year rental, or they go and get somebody who has a couple of years just to throw them in the mix once again to try and make up for some of the shortcomings. Now, Ryan also does mention some other position. That one is more interesting because Ohio State doesn't feel that they are good enough at a position? And I'm not going to name any positions because I think they're pretty good at most positions, offensive line being the one that we certainly are talking about. But if they come out and they don't feel that they've got it, then yeah, you absolutely have to try and make that move. But then again, what happens if that, well, we just can't pass up on this dude type of guy shows up? What does that mean at that point? What if Jim Harbaugh moves on and, and I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just talking here. And Will Johnson's like, I would really like to go to Ohio State. How do you tell Will Johnson no? Because you either have to hold on to him or he's going to hold on to you, if you know what I mean. If you know what that means. So it'll be interesting to see what the next wave of the portal looks like, be it either from the next big job opening out there or the post-spring move. But I think we could still see a move one way or the other, just whether or not it's a frontline starter, plug them in for a year, or somebody that you put in there for a little bit of depth because you know that sometimes you have to be a little bit deeper at the position.
I think it's a fascinating question because ideally they wouldn't need to go to the portal and Luke Montgomery works out as the right tackle and you move Josh Fryer inside. But if as Kevin and Steve said, if there's somebody out there and they can help your team, like they didn't hesitate bringing in McLaughlin. They didn't hesitate, to bring in guys at different times that they want or that can help them, help other people get better. Just Julian saying will help Aaron Nolan get better. They'll help each other. And so that competition is good. Plus, we saw what happened when they were down to their sixth man last year in the bowl game, Enoch Vamahi getting that start at right guard. It didn't go well. And so
no bueno.
Even almost as important as getting that fifth guy is getting that sixth. Yeah, getting that seventh guy. So, and then any other position, boy, you look up and down this roster, and they're not super deep at receiver, but I don't see them bringing in anybody to be the fourth or fifth guy. I think linebacker maybe. And Cody Simon will be the middle linebacker. He's an experienced starter there. But who is the will? CJ Hicks. I know everybody has talked about him. I think probably Sonny Styles is the will, but you look up and down this roster, and outside of that offensive line, like, who do you need that you don't already have? Maybe a second nickel. That's how crazy it's getting. Like, maybe somebody behind Jordan Hancock, and it's like, well, you got top 100 players behind him if you want to use those guys as backup nickels. So there are not a lot of needs for this team, but you still got to put it all together. You got to stay healthy, and I would say offensive line would be the most likely. And if they did bring in somebody else, it wouldn't surprise me if they do something for depth, like a second-year guy that is, ready to move on and knows, like, I can be a bit player this year, but maybe I could start next year. Perhaps like I said, that might be a linebacker as well.
The three main acquisitions through the transfer portal, Howard, Judkins, and Downs, don't necessarily, I think they fill needs to a certain extent, but not glaring needs. This team is not going to win a national championship or a Big Ten championship without better play along the offensive line. So if I could target anything, it would be offensive line. However, in scanning recent transfer portal windows, I have not seen those kind of players of that caliber outside of the Michigan center from Virginia a couple of years ago, Oluwatimi. Caden Proctor, I think, is a different deal. He knew exactly where he was headed, what he wanted. He wanted to go back home. I don't see that level of, for whatever reason, at least to date, that kind of offensive lineman being available, or multiple offensive linemen.
That's why you have to tamper. Just kidding. Just kidding. But just saying. Just Justin saying.
Yeah, you have to figure out what the motivation of these players are, each individual player, for going into the portal. I mean, is it because they've run their course and they were basically told, I'm sick of your blank, get the hell out of here? Or is it a case of that they're playing at a lower level of a school, and then you're having to try and extrapolate whether or not that's, a case of being just the tallest little person, or if those results that you're getting are really because you're that much better than everybody. I mean, there's a lot that kind of goes into that evaluation. Obviously, when you have the coach departure, and that creates a little bit more parity out there, what Alabama's linemen are about, what Washington's linemen are about. People obviously freaked out that Ohio State did not go after Washington's linemen, who are all probably from west of the Rockies and just places that Ohio State doesn't normally recruit well to begin with. So just because a player is on the open market doesn't necessarily mean that they're just making a decision of, I just want to win games and that's it. I mean, I think they want to be able to get to the next level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's why this is not just a Mark Pantoni thing over at Ohio State. There's somebody who is just portal guy. I mean, it's just their job to work on the portal, and everything that, disseminates from portal guy to Pantoni to the coaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of moving parts to this. It's still recruiting. It's not selecting. You're not just going out and selecting. This year it felt like selecting because Ohio State was able to go out and get some of the biggest names, and they all happen to fit specific needs that Ohio State had. But that's not normally how it works out. And I challenge anybody to say that anybody has ever really been in a position of just going out and selecting.
Ryan, thank you for the question and the contribution. Same to you, David. Thanks for being here. GOAT Ohio State defenses, 1996, 2002, 2024, question mark?
I think you're missing 2019 in there in terms of but I wrote a story earlier in the week, and this was just talking about the secondaries, about this could be the best secondary in Ohio State history. And the two that I went with were 1996 and 2016. For my money, were as good as any, but that 98 defense is pretty good overall, but didn't necessarily have the front line. 2002 just made plays, and but they were not far removed from having no corner outside opposite of of Dustin Fox, so they had to move Chris Gamble. The year before that, C. Grant, linebacker, playing corner. So they were able to piecemeal it together in 2002 with what they did. But 2024, we will see. They need, if one of these defensive ends or if both of them could be anywhere close to what Chase Young was in 2019, or what they were, the Bosa's or any of those defensive ends were able to do in 2016. Like, I'm not expecting that, but just that it'll all start up front and they'll make everybody better. But if this isn't a top 5 defense this season, I think something has gone wrong. I think you're getting shortchanged by it, basically.
GOJ stopping by. Appreciate you. A gallon of gas on me.
Must be that California premium or something at $9.99. But
we're gonna get that worked out. Just hang loose. We're gonna get that worked out.
Oh boy.
Oh
there
boy.
we are. Well, GOJ.
I think it's about time for me to go to Mod Pizza for lunch.
Yeah. Well, once we do the split, I think we'd be happy with that price for a gallon of gas. All right. I think it's time, before we wrap things up, to go to Kevin for the weekly recruiting update. So we had Mika concerned about the defensive line, and then also throwing out one Trey McNutt, of course, one of the top safeties in the country. Looking at the disparity in the composite, there must be like 3 or 4 elite players in the state of Ohio for him to be number 1 in the composite in Ohio, but number 3 according to 247 Sports. That's another topic, but Trey McNutt and others, Kevin.
Obviously, Ohio State had a big junior day. It's noon here in Ohio, and their tornado sirens are going off, and a bad dog is freaking out. I like their chances of Trey McNutt, but it's just really how that room shakes down, who gets on board when. I mean, there are other guys that Ohio State are looking at the position. You don't necessarily get to hold a lot of spots, so you wait and see there. Everybody keep an eye coming up this weekend. Saturday, Carter Lowe, offensive lineman out of Toledo. He will be making his announcement. I expect good news on that front. I'm trying to think of any other pressing things that are going on. Just, it's kind of keep it locked in at Buckeye Huddle. Mark Gibler does a great job keeping track of all that. Just dropped another skull session yesterday with some more news. I'm just trying to kind of dance around things that he didn't talk about there, because we got to eat. We got to keep some stuff behind the paywall, and it's there. So check it out over there at Buckeye Huddle.
Is Lowe the highest ranked offensive lineman if they get him since Donovan Jackson? Would that be correct? Where does he fall kind of in the rankings? I suppose I could look that up.
I was going to say, not
In
having
general.
our own ranking service at Buckeye Huddle, I don't pay a ton of attention to what others have.
I can tell you he's 31 in 24/7's own, and then 85 in the composite. So somebody really doesn't like him.
Yeah. Well, that's what they haven't had. That's just what they haven't had. So that's what they need, and that's we've seen him at the camp. He's a massive boy, and he'd be a great get, obviously, if that's what it comes down.
Our Big Ten live show is now Fridays at 7:00 Eastern time. We have plenty of guests, and also give me a call. Steve, what's going on there at Bucknuts?
Well, again, it's late January, and Ohio State has continued its swoon in basketball, now losing 4 of its last 5 games. I was at the women's game on Sunday, which was kind of interesting. On NBC, it drew 1.9 million viewers, and Michigan State versus Maryland, kind of a middle-of-the-road men's game over on CBS, only had 1.2 million. And they had close to 4 million in the overrun, as, of course, NBC was getting ready for NFL playoffs. The game went into overtime past 2:00, and there were 4 million people watching. And Ohio State pulled out the win. And in case you hadn't seen it, the best open field tackle in Columbus this school year occurred when somebody ran on the court and ran into Caitlin Clark and knocked her off her bearings.
Clark ran into the other person. Get it right.
National headlines were made. So, any rate, that's been taking up a lot of my time. But a got some football projects I'm kind of contemplating right now, and going to get back into some of that as well. But just kind of in this period here where we're in a wait and see mode, and been pretty eventful first part of January, no doubt about it.
Caitlin Clark is no Reggie Jackson. Folks, Google
Yeah, that runoff in the
1977 World Series.
77
Yes.
ALCS. He got to second base and said, heck with this. And he took his helmet off and started banging the guys off of him with his helmet. So,
well, he takes a mad dash after the 77 World Series to the dugout, and he's just laying shoulders in the dudes and just decking them. Good stuff. Kevin, what you got?
I'm going to spend some time forgetting the 77 World Series while we're at it because I didn't like that one.
Dodgers.
Yes.
You're not covering the Dodgers, Kevin. Your team's buying up all the players. How about that?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's through the portal, so it's okay.
America.
I mean, and they're having to pay a luxury tax. Just getting ready for winter conditioning, which is going on. Probably need to go through my own winter conditioning. We know that's not going to happen. I don't have Coach Mick yelling at me, though, to get out there and do those types of things. I think that I'm going to probably start doing a roster analysis series of some sort that is different than what Tony has been doing. So, Tony, don't worry. I'm not going to just write the same story as you've done. And we'll start dropping out some more Big Me kickoffs here soon, as I'm hopefully going to be able to announce a presenting sponsor here in the next day or three. So keep an eye at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle for the Big Me kickoff presented by, you're just going to have to wait and see.
Tony.
Well, I just want to share my own Reggie Jackson physically imposing memory, and that was when he was with the Angels. There's this huge brawl during the game, and there's like a pileup of the players, and he crawled out of the top of the pile and grabbed a gun from third base, I believe, and then pointed the gun at the Queen of England, and he was about to shoot her, and then Lieutenant Frank Drebin from his cufflink gun shot, and the bullet hit a lady up in the mezzanine area in the balcony, and she fell off and landed on Reggie Jackson. And so I don't care, your people from the 70s, oh, they couldn't take Reggie Jackson. That lady in the balcony flattened him, took him out.
I must kill the Queen.
Yeah, it was great listening to Mel Allen recap that on This Week in Baseball. One of the best.
This week
as far as what I'm
in baseball.
I'm doing a series on just looking back at the freshman class from Ohio State this past year, what they've done this in 2023, what they can do next year. And I dropped one on Jelani Thurman today. I will be finally dropping the Will Howard closer look at his time at Kansas State. And like we've talked about all of the clips I've been posting on Twitter, writing about that. And then tomorrow or Friday, I'll be my latest to what I know, what I think, what I wonder, probably about this last week or three of everything that's going on. BuckeyeHuddle.com.
I'm guessing fewer people were watching Channel 43 when John Denny was throwing at Reggie Jackson in 1981, and he took a few runs at the mound, and that was quite the melee, and he got carried off the field by Dave Winfield and Oscar Gamble, I believe. It was quite the scene.